The provincial department issued a notice today. At 9 p.m. on June 9th, the Yunshan-Fu coupon channel will be closed. This means that the national subsidy in Luoyang, Henan will end soon. The subsidy in Xinjiang, Henan ended on the 8th, and in Jiangsu province, it ended on the 7th. This news has reached here, so for those who need household appliances, please hurry up.
各位朋友们，最近有一条关于江苏国补以旧换新的通知。
Recently, there's been news about Jiangsu's national subsidy for exchanging old appliances. This has caused quite a bit of panic among the major players in the home appliance industry. The main point of the notice is that Jiangsu's national subsidy policy has entered its final stage, with a total of 300 million yuan remaining. 100 million yuan is released every day, starting at 9 a.m. Once it's gone, it's gone. The government has made it clear that after this round of subsidies ends, there will be no more investments. Last month, Chongqing also entered the limited phase, and I believe more provinces will follow suit in the future.
Right before the 2025 June 18th shopping festival, the old for new national subsidies have collapsed early. Subsidy funds have run out in many places, and the program has been removed. According to Chinese media reports, Chongqing stopped its national subsidy at midnight on June 4th, becoming the first region to use up its subsidy funds. On June 6th, the Chongqing Commerce Commission announced that the old for new subsidy in Chongqing has been suspended, mainly because the subsidy funds were exhausted, with a total of nearly 1.2 billion yuan. It's not just Chongqing. Jiangsu's home appliance national subsidy has also been suspended. In Guangdong, cities like Guangzhou, Foshan, and Zhanjiang can no longer receive subsidies for smart home appliances. Other areas like Gansu and Liaoning have paused subsidies due to the depletion of the first batch of funds. Jilin will stop the old for new subsidy for home appliances starting June 7th and adjust the digital product coupon system. Since March 2024, the Chinese government launched the old for new national subsidy program for home appliances, cars, and digital products to boost consumption upgrades and reduce energy consumption. The subsidy amounts have been significant, with electric vehicle subsidies at 20,000 yuan and a 15% subsidy for digital products, covering many e-commerce platforms and offline stores. The subsidy policy is mainly driven by local governments, aiming to stimulate short-term consumption and ease inventory pressure. However, due to local financial crises, overstretched consumer spending, and businesses taking advantage of the subsidies, the effects have been poor. In the first quarter of 2025, despite large consumer subsidies, the retail growth rate for home appliances was only 2.1%, far below expectations. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, has fallen for 3 consecutive months, showing that customer demand has not been effectively activated. Recently, news of the suspension of these subsidies has sparked heated discussion on social media, with many commenting, "We've been saying the subsidies would end, but we didn't expect it to happen so quickly." Many consumers have exposed on social media that after the launch of the old for new subsidy policy in 2025, products prices on e-commerce platforms and in physical stores suddenly increased. The prices after the subsidy were not much different from the prices before, and in some cases, they were even higher. Merchants took advantage of the opportunity to milk the subsidy, and more seriously, some were even engaging in subsidy fraud or subsidy exploitation.
我真的发现就是老家的那些农村啊，就是依旧
I really found that the old for new home appliance policy in my rural hometown is a scam. It's all a trick. I just got a kettle and exchanged it for this one. It broke after less than a month. Actually, merchants take old products or defective ones to cheat the old for new subsidy.
Some netizens said that my Dea's electric fan had a national subsidy price of over 300 yuan, but now that the subsidy's gone, the price has dropped to just over 200 yuan. Most of the subsidy money has actually been taken by the merchants. A strange phenomenon with the so-called national subsidy is that the government spends the money, but consumers don't benefit. It's unclear who the subsidy actually benefits. According to the paper, after Beijing launched its old for new home appliance policy, a student at Beijing University wanted to take the opportunity to replace her laptop. She found that 90% of the computers were eligible for the subsidized price. A laptop that normally cost over 9,000 yuan would only cost about 7,000 yuan after the subsidy. Xiao Rui said that she saw the subsidy policy would last until the end of the year, so she didn't rush to buy. However, 3 days later, when she logged in again, she was surprised to find that the computers she had been watching had all gone up in price. She said the price increased from 200 to 400 yuan, and many models were out of stock. The range of products eligible for the subsidy has also decreased. The laptop I had put in my shopping cart, which used to be eligible for the subsidy, was no longer available with the subsidy. The customer service said that all subsidized products were sold out, and if I wanted to buy it, I'd have to pay the original price. Another student from Beijing University, Xiao Bin, encountered the same situation. Xiao Bin wanted to buy a Lenovo ThinkBook 14 laptop for a long time. During the mid-year sale, the price was about 4,600 yuan. Before the old for new subsidy in Beijing started, the price at the official Lenovo store was 5,499 yuan, but after the subsidy began, it dropped to 4,399 yuan. However, just 3 days later, the price increased by 200 yuan, and after using the subsidy, the actual price became 4,559 yuan. Some netizens said that the phone subsidy is no more than 500 yuan per item. Only phones priced under 3,333 yuan were eligible for the full subsidy. For flagship phones priced at more than 6,000 yuan, the 5,000 yuan subsidy accounts for only 8%, which is less than the discount offered by the store. Other consumers mentioned that they had ordered a batch of range hoods and stoves at offline stores, but the delivery and installation were still pending. After the old for new subsidy policy was implemented, the merchants suddenly told them that the prices had increased and that they would have to buy again according to the new subsidy policy. The consumer said, after using the subsidy, the final price was about the same as what I originally bought, around 5,000 yuan, but the merchant got over 6,200 yuan through the old for new subsidy policy. Isn't this just exploiting the subsidy? Some physical stores also forced consumers to buy bundles to use the old for new subsidy. They said if you buy a 512 gigabyte phone, you'll have to buy a 499 yuan phone case and data cable. If you buy a 256 gigabyte phone, you'll have to buy accessories worth 799 yuan. If you don't buy the bundle, you can't use the subsidy. The suspension of the national subsidy indicates that local governments are no longer able to provide consumer subsidies. The subsidy measures have drawn significant attention from international investment banks. On June 6, Morgan Stanley held a closed-door meeting where they pointed out that China's consumer market shows no signs of recovery, and deflationary pressure has become a major macroeconomic challenge. Key holidays such as May Day, Qingming, and the Dragon Boat Festival saw a decrease in per capita consumption, 12% lower than in 2019. The meeting noted that deflation pressure in China is intensifying. The old for new subsidy for home appliances has already consumed 60 billion yuan in the first 5 months of the year, and the first phase has now been suspended. They also mentioned export companies. Due to tariff adjustments in North America, orders have been unstable, and many brands are taking a wait-and-see approach. Textile and shoe factories are facing large fluctuations, and profits have been severely squeezed. Overall, both domestic and foreign demand face significant uncertainties, and confidence remains low. There are several serious problems with the national subsidy program. First, local governments in the central and western regions are either unable or unwilling to fund subsidies. Even though they only need to contribute 5 to 10% of their own budgets, the benefits mainly go to manufacturers in the eastern regions, meaning that the central and western regions are effectively subsidizing the eastern regions. Second, manufacturers have generally raised prices in advance, so even though the price to consumers has decreased slightly, some have gone as far as creating fake orders to exploit the subsidy, forming an entire industrial chain. Third, the national subsidy could be directly distributed to consumers through invoices, without needing additional platforms like Yunshanfu. The current mechanism hides significant opportunities for rent-seeking, which severely undermines the original intent of the subsidy program. Overseas economic commentator Cai Shen-kun told Radio Free Asia that simply offering old for new won't significantly boost consumer demand because only those willing or able to afford to trade in old products will participate. For those who can't afford it, the policy is ineffective. Therefore, the old for new policy mainly benefits those with a certain level of purchasing power. Historically, government workers were seen as a stable force in the consumer market, particularly for high-end and durable goods. However, with recent local fiscal crises leading to delayed wages or cuts or cancellations of allowances, the purchasing power of civil servants has significantly weakened. Recently, on social media, civil servants and healthcare workers from Beijing, Guangdong, Henan, and Yunnan have frequently complained about significant salary cuts and even needing to take out loans to cover their wages.
现在咱们医生发个薪资，医院都得给银行寄。
Right now, hospitals have to borrow money from banks just to pay doctors' salaries. This isn't an exaggeration. Most of my followers are healthcare workers, so you all probably know what I mean. Hospitals can get the funds circulating and pay normal salaries, but most hospitals are losing money and can't afford to pay salaries. Let me show you a message from one of my followers. This person works at a hospital and has had to change salary cards several times in the past few years. Why? Because the hospital had to borrow money from banks to pay salaries. After a few rounds, the bank refused to lend more, so the hospital had to borrow from another bank. And that's when employees had to get new salary cards. If you don't believe it, just think back to how many banks you've had salary cards from in recent years, and you'll understand how many banks the hospital has borrowed from. After the recent healthcare reforms, the medical insurance settlements are very low, and many hospitals simply can't pay salaries. Some hospitals are unable to pay at all, while others can only pay a little to ensure basic living expenses. Imagine how difficult the healthcare industry is right now.
On June 3rd, a blogger exposed that many doctor salaries are being paid with bank loans. This is due to the Sanmi healthcare reform policy. Some places have fast medical insurance settlements, so hospitals have enough funds to function and can pay salaries, but the majority of hospitals are operating at a loss and can't afford to pay salaries.
我就是那个被航空公司逼得被迫辞职的空姐。
I'm the flight attendant who was forced to quit. I started with the airline in 2020, officially started flying in July 2021, and resigned in November 2024. In the 3 years and 4 months I worked there, I never received a single normal salary payment. Now a lot of people online are spreading rumors. Are your pilots driving for ride-hailing services? Are most of your flight attendants doing live streaming, selling popcorn or flowers? So what? We have mortgages, car loans, and our siblings are getting married, having children, and taking care of elderly family members. What are we supposed to do? I think every job is just a way to make a living. When we wear the uniform, we fly properly, but when we take it off, we live our lives in our own way, maybe even supplementing our family income in other ways. There's nothing wrong with that. On June 6, a flight attendant from Xingfu Airlines revealed on X that thousands of employees are struggling. Pilots haven't been paid in 3 years, their social insurance had been cut off, and their lives are becoming unsustainable. Xingfu Airlines has been reported to have completely stopped flying. Pilots no longer have flights to operate. Initially, they could receive a basic salary, but it was paid only once every 2 to 3 months, and it was just over 2,000 yuan. To survive, employees had to find other ways to make a living.
看一个县城网友分享的。
Here's a story from someone in the county. Their workplace couldn't pay salaries, so the leader's solution was to take everyone to the bank to take out loans. Then they used the loan money to pay their salaries. He was shocked. He had worked so hard to become a civil servant, and now he had to borrow money just to pay himself. The loan was, of course, easy to get because they are civil servants, and banks have special loan products for people in the system. Banks love lending to this group because of the stability and the job security. But when he received his salary, he didn't know whether to cry or laugh.
现在这个公务员都快撑不住了，工资都
Civil servants are struggling now too. They can't even get paid. The iron rice bowl is about to break. A friend from the Water Resources Bureau came to me recently. They said their department hadn't paid their Social Security and Housing Fund. He said that while other departments can't pay salaries, at least their Social Security and Housing Fund contributions are still being made. They fought for a long time, but got nothing. What's the situation now? In recent years, China's local government finances have become strained, leading to the government only being able to pay basic wages. In some regions, civil servant salaries have been returned to the levels seen in the 1990s. Let's take a closer look at the situation. The goal of local governments in 2024 was to guarantee 6 months of wages and strive for 8 months, but this year, many local governments have changed their target to guarantee 3 months of wages and strive for 6. This means that in 2024, the goal was to ensure 6 months of salary payments, with the aim to pay up to 8 months. However, by 2025, the goal is reduced to ensuring only 3 months of wages, with the hope of reaching 6 months or more. In the first half of 2025, some civil servants and public institution employees in a district of Shanghai have already gone without several months of pay. In the end, the issue was partly resolved through administrative force, where funds were borrowed from businesses across various districts in the city to pay for some of the overdue wages. However, salary funds for the remainder of 2025 had yet to be secured. It's not just Shanghai. In the major economic provinces of Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Guangdong, as well as the municipality of Tianjin, civil servants have experienced unpaid or reduced salaries due to exhausted local finances. In Guangdong, some government departments and employees in public transport companies have been owed wages for months, and in some cases, local governments have even had to borrow money from local temples and Taoist monasteries to pay salaries. According to several government insiders, many regions have been reducing salaries as early as 2023. Schools, public institutions, and some civil servants had their wages and overtime pay cancelled. This year, a larger-scale salary arrears problem has emerged. Both Zhejiang and Guangdong provinces significantly reduced retirees' pensions, with reductions exceeding a third of the original amount. This indicates that even two of China's most economically powerful provinces, both with GDPs over 10 trillion yuan, have lost fiscal balance and are facing financial exhaustion, not to mention the provinces in the northwest and northeast. Many local governments are running out of funds and are on the brink of bankruptcy. According to official data, China's government debt has exceeded 57 trillion yuan. When including hidden debts from government financing platforms, the total debt is expected to be no less than 86 trillion yuan. In other words, local government debt alone translates to over 60,000 yuan in debt per person across the country. The 36 trillion yuan local government debt crisis could lead to an inability to support the Old for New subsidy program, turning the policy into a bubble that consumes future resources. Meanwhile, under debt pressure, local governments cutting salaries and social welfare not only reduces government employees' purchasing power, but could also affect a broader market. Industries such as real estate, automobiles, and high-end home appliances are especially impacted. Moreover, reductions in infrastructure investment will limit long-term economic growth potential, leading businesses to adopt even more conservative expectations, cut expansion, and reduce hiring, further exacerbating the market's low demand. To maintain sales, companies are being forced to lower prices, while consumers expecting a decrease in income tend to cut back on spending. This creates a vicious cycle of low prices, low demand, and even lower prices. If this chain is not broken, it means that China will enter a prolonged period of deflation.